Today's August 5th, 2024. Current Bitcoin price is $55,445.
Welcome to the BitBite podcast, your source for news and information about Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency space. This podcast is meant for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not financial advice.
Did we break something, Rick?
I don't know. Maybe it melted it down.
So, for those of you in the cryptocurrency space, well, let's just say markets in general.
If you have any investments, this applies to you.
They're in turmoil. I don't know how else to put that. Can't sugarcoat that.
You seem to have managed to have done that, though. They're not in turmoil. They're straight up going down.
Yeah, there's not really much of anything that's actually green right now, other than the VIX. We were looking at the charts earlier,
which is the volatility index, which is never good.
Yeah, so that was up 64%.
What was that?
The volatility index is up 64%. So
64%. Mm-hmm. But everything else is down. Bitcoin, of course, gold, all the different trading, NASDAQ, stinking Japan.
Yeah, everything. So, and we were kind of talking about this beforehand. There was something that you had mentioned this, and I completely forgot about this leading into Friday. What came out on Friday was the jobs report, right?
The jobs report, yep, or unemployment figures.
And what were we looking at there?
I think it went up to 4.3%.
Yeah.
So that's never good. And I think, one of the indicators of a recession is once it gets to 5% or above, that's considered a recession. And this the jump to 4.3 is kind of out of nowhere and spooked a lot of people.
Yeah. Well,
on Friday.
And we've talked about this before where jobs anymore right now, especially, they kept on trying to blow sunshine about jobs being so great and all these jobs are added and all this stuff, but it's all part-time jobs. There's nothing that has real benefits for, the American worker. People are having to have like 2 to 3 jobs to be able to kind of just maintain, they're not gaining any ground with these extra jobs.
They're definitely losing ground even with the second job, it seems.
Yeah. And so it's Americans in general, and I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world. I can't say that, but Americans in general, like everybody's kind of just having a really tough time. How are our theoretical purchases doing?
Okay, theoretical purchases. So the first theoretical buy was $3,000 back in October. Netted you, that $3,000 came out to 0.0885 Bitcoin. And, we saw some highs, up above 6,000, and today, not so hot. That is now at 49.07. So we even lost $1,000 since the last episode.
Wow.
So, you're still up, 2,900 or 1,900, but, last week we were up 2,900. So, and then the second theoretical buy happened, we assumed we bought $1,000 right at the halving, which netted you 0.01564 Bitcoin. So it's, still like 1.5 million Satoshis. And with today's price, your $1,000 now is worth $867. So you're down $133.
Man. Yeah, it's and you and I have talked about this too. And I think, I don't know if we've mentioned this on the podcast or not. When the beginning of this year started, it seemed like I figured by now we'd probably be close to 100K. Yeah. It felt like it was such a sure thing, but that's the way the cookie crumbles most of the time.
I think we kind of mentioned it a couple episodes ago. It's like when, or maybe it was further back the beginning of July when it tanked, we kind of looked at things as like, do you really see $100,000 by the end of the year now? And I think that was recorded when we said that. And I believe both of us were like, no, not really.
Yeah. I do want to see us get back above 70. And And I still think we could see 80,000 before the end before this year's out, before it's over. But we'll talk about that here in a second. So we had the unemployment numbers came out higher than what was expected, right? And then
Right.
Japanese stock market tanked this morning, which is kind of what, well, I guess it tanked for them yesterday, which is what put us in a tailspin in the U.S. markets. From what I understand, the Japanese stock market dropped 12% in the day.
Yeah.
And for, a typical market, that's pretty drastic. For Bitcoin, that's nothing. But
Well, it went so low that they halted trading, and then South Korea basically just did the same thing.
yeah. And the only time that has been ever happened before in the Japanese stock market was back in 1987. It was an October surprise event. It slumped 15% in a single day. So this has been the second highest one.
And only because of the halting.
Yep.
Probably.
Yeah. So, and that's what surged that VIX, up that 64%, basically. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening in the world that's causing a lot of uncertainty. We have a lot of the tensions ramping up in the Middle East, right?
Yep. Iran and Israel, there's a lot of, there's been some assassinations back and forth. I know there are troops in the Middle East and getting staged out there. So, things are getting spicy out there. There's also, the Olympics are going on, but nobody's paying attention to that. But there was riots. It almost looks like civil war happening in the UK right now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to make out what's going on as an American, what's happening there. But, everything just looks extra spicy, extra crazy.
I like your terminology there, extra spicy. Yeah, no, but I completely agree with you. I think there's so much uncertainty with things right now. We had even heard rumors today that there may have been an emergency Fed meeting. I've seen nothing that indicates that actually happened. I don't think you did either, right?
No, cannot confirm that.
And honestly, we've talked about this before where Jerome Powell, for the most part, they wanted something to break, and I don't know quite if we're there yet. I think it's just tough because people, or is this just kind of like a temporary spasm kind of thing? It's a tough call. That's part of the reason why Bitcoin for the most part, and you got to keep this in mind for those of you that are investing in Bitcoin, is that it still is widely considered a risk on asset. And so whenever there's turmoil, there's usually those sell-offs that take place. Now, I'd be curious to see, because we haven't been able to see it yet, but within the ETF flows, if there was a major purchases that happened today with this price dip. We haven't gotten to see that yet.
That I wonder if that's one of the things that rescued it from crashing below 50. It did touch below 50.
Yeah.
Actually, what did it start out the day at? It started tanking last night.
So it started off, so it looks like if we just say this on Sunday, we dropped down to, what did we close at? Sorry, I'm looking at the chart here. So it looks like it was at 54,526 on basically midnight on Monday morning. And then it did its tank, and now so it's back above that. We went in Sunday at right around the $60,000 mark, and then so just from Sunday to today, there was a very huge drop. What is that, like 20% that happened?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty in the markets right now, and I think it's just kind of spilled over because Bitcoin is such, like I said, it's susceptible to those types of things. It's very susceptible to the whims of the market currently. And with the jobs report or the unemployment report, and then the Japanese stock market doing what it did, I think that kind of just scared people with Bitcoin as well and everything else.
Right. Well, everything else is getting hammered, and it's not really the true mark of something isn't what happens in the aftermath. It's what happens post fact when we have a few months to look back and see what actually performed well and what didn't.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree with you on that wholeheartedly. And, there was something that we had talked about back in January, which was the M2 money supply chart, where
Right.
it had gone negative, and it hadn't gone negative really since the Great Depression.
It came pretty close in like 1987.
Yeah. Did it get actually? Yeah,
It got to
0%.
0%. Or was it 0?
It looks
it's
like
hard for me to
0.
read that.
Yeah, it's tiny. Oh no, back in it got to 1% in '87, and then it got to 0 in like 19. What is that? 57 or something like that.
Yeah.
But now it was at 2% at the beginning of the year, negative 2%. Yep.
Yeah.
And we have actually since we've gone down to, it looks like below, almost probably to close to 5%. We're now kind of in an upswing again. We're at negative 3.21, but that has just continued to drop. And that's something that we wanted to keep our eye on. And it's been difficult to find that chart, because we've tried to look it up a few different times. We've referenced it, I know, a few different times on the podcast. But, I mean, basically, it indicates that we're in a recession.
Right. And, I mean, the worst M2 supply chart it got down to minus 12% in 1932. So they were pretty far into the Great Depression at that point. But in 1929, it went down to, the chart is very small. It went down to looked like a little bit negative because the dot's right below 0.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And just for reference, when the Great Depression happened, there was 25% unemployment at that time too, and negative 12% on the M2 money supply. And we had to look it up again too. M2 money supply is basically all the money in checking and all the money that's kind of quick cash that's accessible to people, like at the drop of a hat, be able to be spent, right?
Yeah, checking and savings, basically.
And then it includes any cash deposits or anything like that that's less than $100,000, and any type of additional savings, where it's still money that's able to be spent, but it's a little bit harder to access. So at this time, like, really, like we were talking about it before, and to me, that's kind of an indicator of the middle class. And their money supply is gone. There's nothing left.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we weren't going to talk about it, but might as well touch on it. Like McDonald's, for example, their earnings, they didn't make their earnings report, right?
Right. Well, and that was part of the thing that spooked people on Friday. It's like, whoa, McDonald's missed their earnings targets.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good sign.
No. So, I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, it was just a lot of spin in the headlines. Oh, they feel that they're going to make their difference in the dollar menu. It's like, no, they're not. But that's cute.
Yeah.
Try and spin something else on me.
And that's, I mean, the whole, the news cycle in general is definitely like the media circus, right? Like they're just trying to gaslight you all the time.
Yeah.
It's tough. One of the things that I will say, though, on the upside, on the positive note that I am taking from this, is that more than likely we will see, because FOMC said they were going to hold steady, or at least they weren't going to drop interest rates in August.
Yes. I mean, that seemed to be the message, but there was a lot of people on the betting sites on how much the interest rate cut was going to happen in September. It was almost like the market had decided that there's going to be an interest rate cut next month.
Mm-hmm. And
now it almost seems like a foregone conclusion. It's just how much are they willing to show?
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't, we had said, like, we've heard that there was an emergency Fed meeting, but I don't think there's going to be anything that really comes of that. But I don't think, I haven't heard anything to the positive saying that did happen. I do believe that we will see a rate cut in September. I don't know. You said you have an idea of how much. What did you say?
Well, I was thinking 50 basis points, and that's kind of hard to say because, I mean, if they cut that much, then that's signaling that things are much worse than, they're almost showing their hand a little too much.
Yeah. Yeah, because
there's a lot of manipulation that the Fed does, but they don't want to show their hand all the time.
Right, because that causes chaos in the markets, too, for the people that watch them a lot. Because if they see a drastic reduction in the interest rate, then that causes them to be like, oh, something's really broken then. So, I mean, they do have at least they've moved it up high enough that they do have room to move things down. The one thing I will say that's a positive, though, is that if that means the money printers are about to come back online, Bitcoin will benefit from that.
I'm really thinking so. It's just how are things going to look in the near future? That's the question.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if we're done dropping. It's going to be kind of interesting to see what the Asian markets do overnight and how that's going to affect Bitcoin's price. Like, did we bottom out? Or is this a dead cat bounce? Like, what's going on here?
That's actually what I'm scared of. Is if this was a dead cat bounce, this 49 to 55 plus. I mean, there could be a world of hurt. And, we've been kind of waiting for the banana zone or the rocket ships, as we've been calling it. Raoul Paul calls it the banana zone. But where's the stinking banana?
Yeah. Well, it looks like the banana's curving down instead of right now.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
So, I mean, that's kind of crazy is, we've been speculating the past few episodes. I mean, are we going to get the boosters lit? Is it going to go crazy? And not only is this a failure to launch, this is like the rockets may have exploded on the launch pad.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I really hope that we can turn it around, but if things keep going down, we might be entering crypto winter for a little bit.
Yeah.
Possible.
Do you think so? Just in your opinion, it may be too early to tell, but in your opinion, do you think the bull market's over?
I'm not saying it's definitively over, but if it gets much below, I mean, it touched 49 and it bounced up. But if tomorrow it goes down even further, I think we're going to skip that phase 4. It's going to be it's going to be even shorter than a 3-year cycle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we're for sure going to come back and this isn't going to be a problem, but I'm saying this might be one where we skip the summer. We just get that little bit of spring and then we just go straight to winter or fall. Is that the term? The fall is when it goes crazy.
Yeah, fall's typically when it goes chaotic. Like fall's typically when you see the biggest gains before it goes back into winter again. So yeah, I don't know. I still have hope that we'll get at least above that previous all-time high, which I know we've kind of technically touched the previous all-time high, but just with inflation the way that it is, we've really got to get a lot higher than what we have gotten to be able to get that past that all-time high. Just when you're matching for purchasing power or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know, in the world situation right now, if things maybe start to calm down a little bit, or, if Iran gets a retaliation and they calm down a little bit, otherwise things are going to continue to escalate, and then we'll have to really kind of see what happens.
Yeah, and depending on how bad things can get a lot worse.
Yeah.
And we may think today was bad, but...
Oh, yeah. Well, and I mean, if it gets to that point where it gets super bad, that's when the emergency Fed meeting will happen. Well, depending on how much of a world there is to kind of come back to. But yeah, so... I don't know. I would say keep your calm. If you have some dry powder sitting on the sides, maybe start laddering some money in, start making some purchases. If you feel like, Bitcoin's the right bet for you and you really do believe this is your best chance to outpace the market itself, especially with inflation the way that it is, I still believe Bitcoin's one of the best ways to do that. But, it's times like this are the time for buying. And then you hold on, and then you hope for that rocket ship to take off, and you go from there. Not financial advice.
No, not financial advice. And that's the thing. It's for me, it's almost like if I have some dry powder, I don't even know if I'd want to keep it in the bank.
Yeah.
Don't have any cryptocurrency on the exchanges if you can help it. Minimize your exposure in banks because things are getting spicy. That's the word of the day. Spicy.
Yeah. Sign up for the newsletter on our website, www.thebitbytepodcast.com/newsletter, or sign up. I apologize. And then we also have the deals page where you can get yourself a hardware wallet if you want to go ahead and take self-custody and take some of that good old American professional, that personal responsibility that America should be doing. And then what else do we have? Oh, you also get your self-custody checklist when you sign up for the newsletter. So, and then we also have our glossary up there now too. So like if you're new to crypto or Bitcoin or anything like that, and you want to learn some more about the terms and the kind of an origin, there's a brief synopsis on there, as well as there's also now some of Rick's awesome newsletters are actually posted there in the blog as well. So
yes, sir.
Cool, man. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
Oh, I think that's enough bloviating for me. I'm just going to go lay down now and rest.
Go have a spicy meatball?
Maybe a hot toddy.
Hot toddy. Sounds good. Well, thank you all for listening, and we do hope that this isn't impacting you too badly. Again, never invest more than what you're willing to lose, but just keep your head on straight. Don't get too caught up in your emotions.
Yeah, that's the difficult part with this stuff. If you get emotional, you get run over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you will miss that rocket ship. So thank you all for listening.
Bye.